What is going on, guys? Welcome to our Week 2 Fantasy Podcast for Major League Soccer. I am Colin.
My name's Denver.
And we are back. We're going to give you our teams, how they did the last week, how we've made changes for this week, and just go over some of the matchups and talk about just how we're feeling about games, clean sheet potential, things like that. So, Denver, you want to walk us through your team?
Yeah, sure. Basically, round up. Me and Colin we both had 83 points, so we finished in the exact same spot, 620th overall. So not a bad first week. Some of my highlights, I'm going to say Alejandro Pozuelo gets a goal for me, a couple more bonus points. Really happy with him. Julian Gressel bails me out as well, getting 9 points for me. Gustavo Bo up top gets a goal. Latif Blessing went with him, all-around midfielder. He got me 7. Leardom with a late assist. So I had a lot of guys getting assists and some bonus points. I was pretty happy with my team overall. Captain Vela was able to get his double on the 18 points, and then Minotas and Ziegler also with a 7 and 8 point game for me as well. So all around, I felt pretty good about my team here going forward for the first opening week.
Nice, yeah. 8 of my players got 8 points or higher, but the other 3 were absolute busts. I made the huge mistake of captaining Johnny Russell. For whatever reason, he was put on the left wing.
It's an interesting idea, though. It's a very interesting idea.
I was feeling him. He is in my team again this week, but definitely not my captain. I had Kyle Duncan. I got a little lucky there with the crazy game he had.
Mm-hmm.
João Paulo, Pavone, Bo, Polito, Zelarayan, just goals left and right. So that was really great for me.
Yeah. Did you have any busts or anything, or guys who you're just like, oh, shoot?
Yeah, Tim Parker, 1 point.
Mm-hmm.
That didn't go well.
Yeah.
Steve Clark did not keep the clean sheet, and neither did my first goalie in Jensen. So just kind of struggled there.
Yeah, same. I had I think I had Hamid and Fry. Didn't get a clean sheet from either of them. Meza had 4, okay game, but was still hoping he could get that clean sheet. But all around, I thought you and I, we at least had guys when they didn't do well, they at least had like 3 points or higher. You know what I mean?
Game,
so it was solid. But guys, like Colin said, we're just gonna kind of hop in the matchups, talk about some players you might like, some different positions you might like in there. So Colin, first game of week 2 is going to be New England at home facing Chicago. Any thoughts that jump to you when you hear that?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure I'm going to take Gustavo Bo again. I mean, he was just so good. I don't care if Hill plays or not. Bo is just looking like a huge fantasy value for being able to create goals as well as score them up top.
Yeah.
Adam Buksa is, he needs service. He needs somebody to provide that to him, and Heel and Bo are going to do that. But I think Bo is just a great look in that game. Chicago's midfield, just all around, was pretty good.
Yeah.
I don't have any of them, but it's an interesting look. But I'm definitely not taking any New England defenders.
Yeah, no, that's a great point. About Chicago, we were looking at earlier. I think every one of their starting midfielders had 5 or higher, which is kind of crazy. Thing about Chicago, because we didn't really expect that. Yeah. But like you were saying with Hill, if Hill plays, I think that makes Bo and/or Buksa and/or Hill a very favorable matchup against Chicago. New England at home is typically a pretty good team, but just make sure you check that lineup, because if Hill doesn't play, it possibly drops the stock of New England as a whole. So just be on the lookout for that. Next matchup, right 2 o'clock, Salt Lake is hosting the New York Red Bulls. Colin, anything jump out at you in that one?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm just not going to take anyone from RSL's attack. If I were going to consider it, it would be Rusnak, just because I know he's playing. They just have a very influx lineup right now. It's not really solidified right now. Sam Johnson's hurt. Giuseppe Rossi is not match fit. They had Herrera playing an advanced role in the midfield, and I'm actually looking at taking him this week because I think they could hold the Red Bulls to a clean sheet potentially, just because the Red Bulls they're going to have to score through committee. They don't have a very strong number 9 that's going to get it for them. So I think with all the matches we have, RSL's not a horrible shout for a clean sheet. Yeah,
no, absolutely. And it's funny, last game they actually traveled to Orlando. I know Orlando doesn't have a great offense, but they keep them to a clean sheet. Start a pretty solid back line here in Toya, Anuha, Marcelo Silva, Justin Glad, and then Aaron Herrera, also good defensively. So I think possible clean sheet. Do they do it 2 weeks in a row? I'm not really sure. But this is kind of a game I can't really predict too well. Danny Royer, I don't think he really did too much last game. I could be wrong on that. I know Florian Velo had a very good game, so you could look at that.
2 assists.
Yeah, he had that 2 assists last game, but in this game, it's kind of hard to tell. Nothing is really standing out and jumping out at me. Like you said, there's question marks around both these teams as far as who the goal scorer is and where the delivery is coming from. But if you're feeling risky, it could be a place where you can get one of those cheap players, one of those new cheap RSL attackers, and kind of save some money elsewhere. Jumping around to Dallas hosting Montreal. Thoughts on that one, Colin?
I just don't think Montreal is going to possess too much against this Dallas team. They're pretty solid in possession, and I mean, Taider's a decent look, but we'll see.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And the thing about Montreal is they held New England to a goal, but New England could have easily had 3 goals. So I'm not really trusting Montreal's defense right now, so I'm definitely kind of staying away as far as that. Urruti has that really good goal against New England, but if he doesn't score, you're kind of hurting yourself there. So I'm looking at Dallas mainly, and I'm thinking about doubling up on maybe a keeper or defender keeper in Gonzalez or Hedges or Cannon, just because I'm not too confident that Montreal is going to put a ball in the net. I mean, truly traveling to Dallas. Dallas is pretty good at home. I'm definitely going more Dallas defensively here. Andrzejczyk, maybe is he a player you think is putting on the net this week, or?
I think he definitely has that potential.
Yeah.
But I was actually really impressed with Montreal's defense last week against the Revs.
Oh,
they were just, kind of locking it down. So I would say maybe avoid Dallas attackers.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I was thinking maybe Barrios. Andrzejczyk, again, one of those players he needs to score, but I was thinking maybe Barrios. He's always involved. So at the very least, I think Barrios' floor could be 4 or 5. Sure. And then if he's primed for a stat, you're looking at 8 or 9, which would be a very solid play for his price right now. Going DC is having another home game against Inter Miami. Something jumping out at you there, Buse, or?
Well, I don't know. I mean, honestly, Ben Sweat might be a defender to take just because he was locking Carlos Vela down, pretty much. Obviously, it didn't work out the whole time. But, I mean, we're looking at a defense that, while they had some really iffy moments, they were kind of solid for the most part and, impressed me in different areas. And DC United, we watched them live. Their attack was not bad, but I think there's still some kinks to work out with the new roster, so potentially an away clean sheet for Inter.
Yeah, oh yeah, absolutely. DC did not look great, especially against a Colorado attack that I didn't think they'd have this much trouble holding off, but apparently they did. 2 people I'm looking at here is Edison Flores and Rodolfo Pizarro, the newcomers in the league. Are you taking any of those 2 players? Because they actually didn't have good fantasy showings, although their price is upwards of, I think, at least around 10 mil. Are you considering them at all, or?
I'm not considering them, but I just think they need time to settle in, really. I think there's just so many players that I want to put in my lineup, and a lot of those guys I feel a little bit more confident in, a higher floor, because I think Pizarro and Flores could easily just get you 2 or 3 points and it feels like a dud. Yeah,
and that's what we saw yesterday. It looked like, because Gressel was playing that cam role, and like I said earlier, he bailed me out, but Flores at time looked like he wanted to occupy that middle space, but he had to go out wide, and then he couldn't really have too much freedom or creative expression to get those attacking bonuses and create chances. But I think he can, though, so it'll be interesting to keep an eye on that for next game. Next we have Toronto hosting NYCFC. This one's going to be a dogfight in the midfield. Is there any kind of midfield battles you're looking at as far as the Azorios and the Alex Rings of the world?
Yeah, I'm just looking at the teams. I mean, we're talking about an NYCFC team that is truly out for blood right now because, first off, Toronto knocked them out of the playoffs last year.
Great call.
So they're kind of pissed about that.
Absolutely.
But the other thing is, they didn't really get a chance to play last week.
Yeah.
They were just immediately handicapped.
Yeah, basically every score you see on NYCFC is fluky in a way, whether it be the attackers or defenders maybe having more opportunities for clearances. It's kind of fluky. I think Toronto at home is a pretty solid team. In this game, I'm definitely looking at a possible clean sheet for some of these teams. It's hard to predict, but I think NYCFC's attack is really underrated because people aren't thinking about what they do have, and we didn't see that last week. So I'm kind of think I'm going to avoid defenders in this game and maybe look at possibly a Bear chance or maybe a Josie Altidore goal. Maybe we could flirt with having one of those guys on our bench, and seeing if we could just get a stat from a striker or whatnot. Next game we have, I think it's a huge chance for points, is Atlanta United hosting FC Cincinnati.
Well, there's no Joseph, so I'm a little worried about, whether PT or Barco is going to be that guy for you. It just feels like they don't really know what they're doing.
Yeah.
They're not set. They want to bring in a replacement, so they're not really planning on rolling with the situation.
Yeah.
But it is home against FC Cincinnati, whose defense is, not great.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot to consider there, but I'm not going to take any FC Cincinnati players just because it's hard to play at Mercedes-Benz.
No, absolutely. One of the most toughest environments in the league, of course. Colin, when you were saying about Pity and Ezekiel Barco, let's say you definitely want to take Atlanta, you want to take one of the two. Which one are you going with?
Ezekiel Barco.
Barco, yeah, and he did have the goal last week. Very clean finish. Any reason why you're avoiding Pity, or anything that he showed you last week of why you're a little bit weary as far as taking him?
I just think I can't watch him shank it over the net one more time. Really, I can't do it.
It's pretty bad. I mean, the guy, he's got to start scoring soon, and every time
if he shoots outside the box, it's not going in.
Every time we think he might start scoring, it just doesn't happen. As far as defenders for Atlanta, I think this is a prime time to take advantage of Meza. I know he had a passing bonus last week. Mulroney and Lennon seem to be getting involved. Out of the defenders, is there a guy for Atlanta you're definitely going with? Or No, really? Staying away from defenders?
If I do, I think you made a good point about Meza with the passing potential for 2 bonus points there.
Yeah.
And, maybe the defending bonuses, but I think just in a game where you don't have Joseph Martinez and you're figuring out what you're going to do now, and you're already in a 3-5-2 situation because Lennon and Mulroney are invisible on the defense.
Yeah.
I mean, we're talking about a Cincinnati team that could just grab one even if they lose 5-1.
Yep, and I remember, I think, was it last year when Cincinnati actually put one in at Mercedes-Benz? It was early last year. I remember we were actually listening to that game, and Cincinnati did actually find a goal at Mercedes-Benz. San Jose hosting Minnesota. Interesting, scrappy game in my opinion. Colin, do you have any first thoughts at this matchup? Or?
Ethan Finley looked great.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, Kevin Molina got the brace, but Finley got an assist brace, and he was just really.
Yeah.
I don't know. He looked good. He looked fast.
Yeah.
He looked ready to just open up the play, and I think if he beats, if he beats somebody in that one-on-one marking system, he's just gone.
Yep.
And then he'll just slide one through to Amarillo or something.
Yep.
I'm a little nervous about San Jose's defense, but I do like San Jose players even against Minnesota, just because they're at home, they're ready to roll, and they just have so much goal potential. And I'm a little scared to take a Minnesota defender. Yeah,
no, absolutely. One thing we were talking about is Alanis. Of course, his performance is elevated. It kind of doesn't really speak for itself because with the goal, which probably won't happen a lot. But is he kind of a new Rito Ziegler type center back where he just makes a lot of passes? San Jose controls the game. Alanis takes some free kicks, actually creates some chances, and maybe gets you a clean sheet every once in a while. I mean, is he a player you're looking at week to week, or?
He's a player that I'm looking at week to week for that purpose, but also just the fact that his passing, the rate at which he's passing, 80 passes in the first game was pretty wild,
insane.
Obviously he didn't hit the accuracy percentage marker, but that intrigues me. And he's very involved, a lot of ball recoveries, just a lot going on for him, so I like him in most matchups. Yeah, absolutely. I think Minnesota too, Jan Grey Goose is a player I was looking at. I think these are both teams that have midfielders all over the field that you could go with. So it'll definitely be interesting to see how that battle kind of turns out on the pitch. Next we have the new and improved Sporting KC in a very favorable matchup at home against the Dynamo. Colin, what part of the pitch are you looking at first as far as this matchup goes? I have a very strong bottom line for this team, and it is I'm avoiding their midfield, except Johnny Russell. I'm looking at Polito as well. Staying far away from their defense. They just looked too shambly, and Houston has an electric attack.
They do.
I don't know if Kansas City will win, whatever, it doesn't matter. Bottom line is I think Houston scores.
Yep, Houston scores. And we didn't even see Darwin Quintero last week, and
Albert Elise.
And we know for a fact that Benotas's goal scoring rate is just kind of through the roof. So you have to imagine that SKC actually doesn't hold this clean sheet as much as a favorable matchup this is. So I think that's really a great point that you brought up. Talking about Houston goal scorers, should we be monitoring the situation of Elise and Quintero? And if they're in the starting 11, do you actually go ahead to play them even though Houston's on the road?
I don't know.
It's a tough question because we don't know about subs. We don't know how they really fit. It's kind of hard just taking a gamble out of players' first appearance of the season. But with that being said, I think there's definitely room to go maybe another Manotas pick possibly and kind of hit on that. Maybe he keeps his form going up against a spotty KC defense. We'll definitely have to see. Next matchup we have is Colorado is hosting Orlando at good old the Mile High Dick's Sporting Goods Park. Colin, is there any way Orlando has players here that you could see going on the road, or are you just going with the home team, Colorado?
I mean, I might take a shot at Rouen.
Mm-hmm. Always a good pick.
We watched Colorado live, and they looked good, but I think they just have a new system to acclimate to. Their starting lineup isn't set. They made a lot of subs in the attack. Eunice Nomley looked great, but I don't know. It's just not fully there yet. So I could see Orlando sneaking a second clean sheet, which would shock all the statisticians to start the year. But I mean, Rouen's not the worst pick. I just love his attacking potential. Yeah, no,
it's interesting that Orlando City starts the season on a 0-0 draw. It's just so unlike them. So here, us fantasy guys are scrambling, trying to figure out why and what's happening. Two players from this matchup that I just absolutely loved last week is Jack Price and Jegson Mendez, the both CDMs for the respective clubs. I think Jegson Mendez had 15 ball recoveries. He actually got those 2 recovery bonus points and was just all over the pitch, taking shots, making tackles, getting that passing bonus and that clean sheet bonus. And then Price gets an assist, and as well, just think like 3 chances created, passing bonus, some tackles, recoveries. It was just they were both very active. Which one of those 2 players are you picking as far as the edge?
Jack Price.
Jack Price. Do you think just chance creation, assist potential?
His floor is so high. I mean, there's not going to be a game that he doesn't pass the ball 80 times. He's going to be accurate. That's just what he does. And just any given day, he can just drop one on a dime to Kai's head.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, it's just the assist. It's just who Colorado has up top that makes Jack Price actually so lethal in an assist standpoint. Next matchup, we're heading to LA for the Galaxy to take on the always so lowly Vancouver Whitecaps. As far as attack, the Galaxy are stacked. Is there any reason why you're not going Pavone, Chicharito, Katai, whoever it may be?
I want to take Katai very badly, but it looks like he's not going to be playing 90 minutes at this juncture.
Yep.
I would love to take him for that budget play, but I'm a little nervous about that. I might put him on my bench just for looks.
Yep.
If Jonathan Dos Santos plays, I think their entire attack is worth even more.
Yep.
But bottom line is Chicharito or Pavone will be on my team.
Okay, so you're taking out at least one of the 2. Like you said, Jonathan Dos Santos, that's another player to just monitor because he just elevates the play around him, kind of like Carlos Hill, who we touched on earlier. I'm guessing, I just want to confirm this, we're not touching Vancouver. I mean, there's just, I don't think there's any room for Vancouver. Cavallini's going to get his first goal pretty shortly here. I'm very sure of it. But, I mean, maybe Ali Adnan can get forward against Rolf Felcher. But I just can't see a place, a spot for them on my team when they're traveling into LA and facing a Galaxy team who's usually pretty solid at home. Next up, we're going to Seattle, facing Columbus, which I think is going to be a very good game, just a fun game to watch in general, never mind fantasy. Colin, anywhere you're looking here on the pitch that you're targeting? Or?
If Ladero sits and João Paulo starts at cam, I'm taking him. He probably won't. I mean, he just does well in that central mid, number 8 kind of role.
Yeah. He can score too as well, the occasional goal, and if he does, it'll be, in a game where he's playing higher.
Yeah, Morris looks good. Obviously, he had that brace coming off the bench, but bottom line is they're not at CCL anymore, so they're here to play. Yeah,
they're here to play. And I think, personally for me, I'm absolutely taking Morris, although Columbus seems like they're going to be a pretty good defensive team. Is there any room for anybody in Columbus, whether it be Pedro Santos, Darlington Nagbe, Zella Ryan with that insane finish last week? Is there any room for Columbus attackers? Because Seattle's defense didn't look the best against Chicago. I mean, Chicago had chances, and we didn't consider them a team that would create those kind of chances. So with possibly a better team coming into Seattle Sounders Stadium, is there room for any kind of Columbus players? Or
Zella Ryan is the only one, I think.
He's just is central to what they are.
Yeah, I don't really want him this week just because Seattle's so good, but he's a solid player clearly, and he's going to create chances.
Yeah.
Zarda's not with a 10-foot pole. Yeah. Whoever their left winger is, probably not, but Santos maybe.
I mean, we'll have to give a double look. This isn't like Seattle, but we know that them in Portland can be spotty at the start of the season. Sorry about that, y'all. Camera glitch real quick. Had to kind of rearrange everything. we're still new to this. Only the second episode. We'll get better, I promise. But we're talking about Seattle Columbus. Morris is a player that I absolutely am going to be going with this week. I think he's just too deadly, too central part of their attack. If Nico Ladero does play, even more of a reason, because I think that's just more service to Morris. Service to Morris. So, Colin, any other thoughts on the Seattle Columbus game? Any players that you're looking at other than Jordan Morris?
I mean, I'm a little scared on Morris and Ruidiaz just because Columbus's defense is so good. But I wouldn't blame anyone for taking them.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I know Milton Valenzuela is a player that you were pretty high on coming into the season. Is him or any other Columbus defenders, on your radar? Because Seattle actually doesn't score until Morris comes into the game. So.
Not this week.
Yeah. I mean, Seattle is a deadly attack. It's early in the season, so that could have been kind of a fluke result on their part. Heading into the two Sunday matchups, we have Portland hosting good old Nashville SC. Terrible what happened to them, so I'm guessing they're going to be coming out looking for blood, looking to come back, looking to have a reason, something to believe in, to rally around. Colin, anything jumping out at you in this matchup?
Probably just how bad Portland looked on the defense against Minnesota. They were just so all over the place, and they just let two in back to back. It was just like they weren't really with it. They weren't on it. Their attack is still solid. I think Mora's a great shout this week. Valeri's always a good pick. But if you take someone from Nashville, I'm not gonna bat an eye at that.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I was looking at Hani Mukhtar, and I don't have any exact stats or points that he put up, but he seemed to be pretty central as to what they were doing, and he seemed to not only be in that number 10 role, but also drop back at times to form kind of a straight line midfield three, thus adding to his possible tackles and interceptions and ball recoveries. Any thoughts on Hani Mukhtar or even Dax McCarty and Godoy, sitting behind him?
I think Mukhtar is the only player from that attack that I would take. I think if there's a penalty, he's taking it. I think if there's an opportunity, he's creating it. Baji, I won't take this whole season. Akam, maybe if he gets hot like he does sometimes. But this week, the only player I'll take from Nashville is Hani Mukhtar or Walker Zimmerman. Yeah,
absolutely. And going back to Zimmerman, do you think that there's a possibility of a clean sheet? Is that where Zimmerman's coming from?
I'd say he's in my top 10 players to look at defensively, just because I think he's such a central piece of that defense. He's going to make a lot of tackles. He always has that corner kick goal potential.
Exactly.
But mainly just because of how strange Portland looked. Sometimes they were coming together really, really great and smooth, but I'm not taking them. Yeah, no, that's definitely not a bad call at all. Just on Hani Mukhtar, he did have that passing bonus. He had 2 key passes, so he was one shy of a key pass bonus as well. Won 7 duels. I mean, he was pretty much all over the field, had 6 recoveries, had that recovery bonus, and that's all being done against Atlanta. So I really don't see Hani Mukhtar being a bad option, especially facing maybe a more weaker Portland team and a more weak midfield. Final matchup of the week, it's going to be LAFC hosting Philadelphia. We all know all about LAFC's attack. We all know about Carlos Vela, Rossi, Rodriguez. Out of those 3, Colin, I'm guessing you're taking Vela, but is there any other room for any other attackers on LAFC? I actually don't think Vela's going to be on my team again. Rossi will never be on my team just because if he doesn't score, he gets you 2 points guaranteed. Rodriguez is just not at that point yet. He's a great dribbler. Like you said, he's great on the ball, but he's just not in a position where he's making plays. I'm not going anywhere near any Philly defenders, obviously. Wagner's hurt. Jack Elliott didn't even play last week. It's just not worth even looking at.
Absolutely. And, you say Philly defenders. Is there anything in the Philly midfield you're looking at? I mean, Jaimiro Montero was a beast last year.
He's always a good shout just because he's going to be very involved in the play. I just don't think I'm going to take any Philly players this week.
Yeah, I feel like it's just kind of risky, just the fact that LAFC can control the game so well, especially at home. Is there a defender from LAFC that you're also looking at? Whether it's maybe Palacios is getting forward. I don't think he started last week, but he may be able to start this week. Or Eddie Segura. I think
Segura is the only one I would consider. I think he's going to be really heavily owned because he did well last week, and also he's probably the biggest name on that defense. But the main thing is, Philly didn't look great against Dallas. You know, like they have Kasper Shibilko who can just score at will anytime, so that's a little scary. But I just didn't really see it clicking too well, so I'm gonna maybe take an LAFC defender. Okay,
so possibly an LAFC defender, but then again, their defense. We've been talking about this. It's not really a good defense on paper. I mean, it's a good defense because LAFC can control the game and they can score a couple goals and then play a little bit deeper if they need to. But it's not necessarily a defense where they can go out and get a clean sheet against a solid club.
Right.
So I think we need to be weary about that, going forward.
I probably won't put any one of them in my lineup, but I think they're all going to be really heavily owned because people always think Philadelphia is worse than they are for some reason.
Exactly. Philadelphia's always surprising, and that's been a theme, last year and most likely this year with the return of the roster. Well, that about wraps it up for the games this week. If you guys do have any questions or anything, or you're debating on who to start, just feel free to reach right out to us at the MLS Guys. We'd be more than happy to kind of walk you through how we make suggestions and how we make our picks.
Yeah.
Calling player notes. We just got done with those today.
Yeah. We've talked about this before. We don't like that. Unlike every other fantasy sport, there's no like Roto World doing any player notes. When you click on your guy, it just has their stats.
Yeah.
So at our website, theMLSguys.com, under fantasy, we do have a player notes section where every single kind of relevant fantasy player will have at least a little blurb from us. We do try to mention injuries and things like that to the best of our abilities. So if you want, any more information on players, just kind of with our thoughts, go ahead and check that out.
Yep, definitely. And closing thoughts, guys, real quick. One thing to look out for this week is now we kind of know and we have a sense of who's playing and who's featuring on teams, but we also have a sense of who's being pulled out early, what kind of attackers are being replaced by who. So, we see Rossi is probably going to be pulled a lot. We see other attackers that have now been pulled. RSL is still figuring out who's playing where. So just be wary of that when you're looking to make sure that your players are going 60 minutes. And if a player is getting taken down the 70th, it's going to be a lot harder for them to reach all those attacking bonuses.
Yeah,
so, so just make sure you're feeling confident the player that you're choosing is going at least 80 and, in best case scenario, 90. Colin, anything else you'd like to add or anything?
No, that's it. If you want to join our league, feel free to check out our Twitter. We have it posted.
Absolutely.
It's just for fun and shout-outs, but, we want to see what you guys are doing, with your own picks.
Absolutely. Love to get involved with you guys. If nothing else, we will catch you guys next week, and always feel free to let us know how it goes.
Yeah.